Hi, hello, namaste, and welcome to today's discussion on a very important and critical topic balancing care and careers, the hidden impact of senior care on the workforce. It's a very unusual conversation, unusual topic. We don't come across a conversation around this topic. But we'll get to know why we've chosen this topic for today. It's organized by Elders India, India's only holistic B2B2C senior care support company. So, the whole, when I shared the link with a couple of people, they just said, why are you doing a senior care and elder care conversation in a corporate setup? It's like a personal thing, and you're using a corporate medium to have this conversation. And I thought, good that we chose this because it's time to really challenge this thinking and mindset. Because elder care is a business reality. It does impact productivity, career growth, and well-being of our employees. And many people and many leaders still cannot register how caregiving, which is a personal thing, can impact employees' productivity. And why should caregiving and elder support be an organization's commitment? Is there any risk involved by including senior care support in the organization policy? Is there a huge cost implication? And many more such questions surrounding senior care support I have heard whenever I have discussed these issues. So we feel that there's a need of continuous conversations coming together of people like you, industry leaders, to deliberate more on senior care support. So I would like to extend a warm welcome and huge thanks to my panelists today. Anil Sharma, who's Executive Director, People Partner, South Asia, Synopsys Inc. Annapurna, Director, Global Learning and Talent Development and Head Human Resources at Fime and founder Emotionalytics and Company. She is a very renowned HR thought leader with 25 plus years of experience. I'm glad that, finally I've met you today, Annapurna. Garima Pant, she's the Group Chief HR Officer at Woolen Lolintas Group India. And we have Reema Bose-Suri, who is the co-founder and Chief Customer Officer at Elders India. So thank you all of you for joining it. And thank you, Reema and Elders India, for bringing this conversation in the forefront.
Thank
So
you.
Anil, let me start with you.
Sure.
You worked with
Again,
multiple organizations.
yeah,
You would have seen employees struggling with their roles, perhaps as caregivers in senior roles. You would have seen your team members or peers.
yeah,
Uh, and we have seen that organizations have acknowledged childcare since quite some time,
yeah.
but not elder care as a workplace issue. So, can companies in today's time afford to ignore something like elder care, senior care, when one in three employees are already affected?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for having me on this panel, and I really appreciate Elders India to championing really the cause, which I think is now becoming a reality. It is touching each one of us. If I were to talk about individually as a person, as a professional, I think I'm very fortunate to be in Bangalore because I have support of my brothers who are taking care of my mother. Had that not been the case, I don't think I would have ever stepped out of Noida to come to Bangalore and pursue my goals. And so that way, professionals are always at the crossroad at some point in their life, and also live with this kind of a guilt that am I doing enough for my parents, or should I pursue my own career? And from that perspective, I think it is very timely that we are discussing it. Now, if you look at the organizational, and I'm talking for my organization at the moment, that 80% of my payroll cost is human capital cost in an R&D setup where we are driving innovation through our engineers. And if our employees are not at mental peace or they are worrying about anything, whether it is childcare or their parent care, definitely it is bothering them. So they can't bring their whole self to workplace. So, and it does impact their engagement, motivation, because if, let's say, for example, I have toothache, I will be continuing to think of that toothache throughout the day. And if I have parents who are in a remote place where the medical services are not as good as in a metro, then I don't think I can do a 100% contribution to my job. So from that perspective, I agree that yes, it is about time that we talk about elder care. And I think it is also time in the history of workplace where number one, five generations are working together, but a lot of migration has happened to metros where that was not the case, let's say 15, 20 years back. And that puts focus on elder care. So right now we're looking at, let's say, extension of our employees, which is children. But we should also look at where our employees came from, which means their parents. And you can't really de-link that to say, okay, I will take care of your immediate family, but I will not take care of your parents. So I think that's the perspective that organization should start doing it. And in our organization, we do our best to the extent it's possible. But yes, it's about time that we should start openly discussing about that topic.
Thank you, Anil. Thank you for starting the conversation with some hard reality. And, the fact that you said that, perhaps if we are not in the same city as our parents,
Yeah,
and if our parents are not in metros, and perhaps even if they're in metro, for example, Rima
absolutely.
right now, she has her parents in the same city, but in a different location.
Yeah,
And it's been quite challenging, Rima, managing their health and your work and your personal commitment, and juggling between different aspects of it. So it's not just, I feel that, of course, if they are in remote location, it becomes even more challenging. But what I'm
that's
seeing, as you said, when you started the conversation, you said there is a joke going around that Bangalore has become uh
Char Jam
Char
Yatra.
Dham, Char Jam Yatra because of the traffic jam. So, even moving from within a city from one location to the other, it's a
Yeah,
huge challenge.
it's a huge
So
challenge. Absolutely.
it's a huge challenge. And the whole part that you're saying that, you don't just bring a part of your to the organization, you're bringing your whole. So if your whole is not there,
Yes.
perhaps, your output definitely gets impacted. And there are other things as well
Yeah.
besides output, and we'll come to that as well.
Yeah.
Uh, Garima, at the beginning of this session, you mentioned something very interesting. You said all of us who are participating in today's conversation um, is sorry is kind of, we are at a stage wherein we all might have parents to take care of or senior to take care of, so we can empathize perhaps with this conversation and topic more than perhaps compared to people who might not have
Yeah.
parents who are in their late 60s, early 70s, or late 70s. So you've personally experienced being a caregiver, active caregiver. You have a very active career, and traveling from Mumbai to Delhi over weekends to be with your ailing father, um, managing such a huge agency. Uh, how well were you prepared for this situation?
See, I think a large role was not really played by me. But having said that, what worked for me in this situation was a very flexible employer and a
Mm.
very flexible workplace. So I had to play the role of a responsible employee of managing work in a fashion that it didn't get impacted to a large extent, but mentally I was always at peace that this is not being taken negatively by the setup, and people are understanding of my situation. So I think that becomes very handy for any employee if the culture and the environment is such that these needs are understood by a large setup, whether it be your leaders, your peers, your team members. And I think that came in very handy. If I look at the situation, if it was me personally handling this situation alone, and which would be the case today of a large part of India, the next generation, maybe not my generation, is that there are single children, and obviously then it'll be two or four set of parents to take care of. And that burden will become immense in coming times. Anyways, the burden today is not easy to handle. So for that, some of the things I think can work well are, one, a basic awareness, because till the time you get to that stage, you don't know what it is like. A lot of people have no idea. Even simple things like what to do in an emergency, right? Because we always feel the worst will go to somebody else. It's not going to be me. Uh, then this this flexibility that employers need to give and continue about hybrid work. This entire thing of some major organizations, I'm not going to take names, saying hybrid is not going to be there and let people come back 5 days, where there's mistrust. Uh, but it's important that we understand that we are dealing with real people. And if you look at the demographics changing in the last couple of years, life expectancy has increased. So anywhere, if you look at an employee who's 40 and above, will have a caregiving parent to take care of, will have a caregiving responsibility. So you're 40 to 60, if we keep a retirement age of 60 also in India, that 20 years of work life requires active caregiving support. And if employers are not open to that reality, then we are just dealing with presentism uh, and not real, like Anil mentioned, right? People will not be able to bring their whole selves.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's there. And yes, even I know it's an unrelated topic, but well-being of elders is also important. If you have between the two parents, one is unwell, the other is still better, you get a lot of support to manage the situation. So I would say those are the things that really come in handy, and a great social support system. And India, again, we have that thing, unlike the Western world, we can always set up a very solid support system around us, and that becomes key to managing our professional and personal lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I captured a couple of very key points, Garima. One, you said that you were lucky that you had a organization and a culture which supported you when you needed that. But maybe we are all not always very lucky. Maybe sometimes the culture of the organization is there, but you might not have a great manager. I mean, so one thing is how can we perhaps get into a systemic support, a systemic culture that the organization can promote rather than leave it to chance that you may be lucky. Second, you mentioned about the demographic shift and the longevity which is increasing, which is great news that longevity is increasing, but with it comes a lot of challenges, a lot of responsibilities, early retirement. In fact, now though we can work for a longer period, but if you see the work cycle of an individual at around 55 or so, either they have to continuously prove that they're still giving to the corporate world, or they have to move out and find something for themselves, which means your longevity planning becomes extremely critical. And third, you mentioned about the age group of 40 and above having parents to take care of. And what I'm also seeing, like I'm 51, my son is 21, so when I'm 60 he's 31, he's not even 40, he's just 30, 31. And there's a lot of awareness and sensitization for preemptive caregiving also, which needs to come in, because I'm sure there is always this fear and stress of, okay, at someday, like for us there is fear and scare that at someday our parents are getting even more older. So I'm sure even with these younger generation, and we had more siblings and we had more social support system, but yes, in India we still have a huge support system, but it's declining. If you see, the number of children are declining, people are and children are moving away. There's so many distractions and so many more commitments that have come to play. Earlier it was you go to office, you come home. Now you have a social life, now you work, you have some social impact, some cause related travel. I mean, there's so many things which have come into your arena, and you have to juggle between everything. And the last bit which I also captured from you is the whole emotional well-being part of it, for the elders and perhaps for the caregiver. I'm sure you would be juggling in your mind constantly, like as a mother, a lot of us have this guilt when we are in office that you've left your children at home. When you're at home, you're like, okay, this is my commitment at office. You're always kind of juggling and finding a way to balance it out. And that also creates a lot of stress. So Annapurna, I'd like to jump to you here, because you're such a big champion of emotional well-being, and you have a company that specifically works in that space. How do you see this whole elder care, caregiving, having a direct correlation with emotional well-being, mental well-being, stress, and therefore one is the well-being of the employee, and that's why I said it's not just about the output and impact of the organization, but of the individual as well.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for this invite. And really interestingly, I think this is the first time I think I'm in some of this topic like this. We have spoken about many other things. We have spoken about women. We have spoken about children. We have spoken about various other issues of the corporate, but not about elders care. And which itself means that it's quite important, and it has become pivotal that we have to speak about this topic right now. And before even I come on to the question, what you are asking about emotional well-being and what it brings to the individual in the organization, I would also drive your attention towards many other things when it happens when we talk about this elder care. First and foremost, always as HR professionals, we start fighting around, even before we hire people, they ask such an pertinent questions like that, in our recruitment itself. Does your insurance cover parents or in-laws? See this. This is a clear differentiator that I will choose the company which is going to give me this. And post-COVID, it has become quite evident. People are very happy that if there is an organization which supports this, they're looking even for a little CTC lower, but they would like to prefer that company. You see, this is coming up. Then we are talking about what kind of laws do we have in the country. We don't have any mandatory laws telling that you really require to take care of your senior citizens or elderly or something like that, or you have a kind of benefit, like a maternity benefit. Do we have an elderly care benefit? Do we have a kind of break in your careers, or break of extra leave, or something which you could categorically put it? Maybe certain MNC, certain big large corporations which are there, they're trying to do something there, like paternity benefit. It's not a mandatory. Similarly, this is also not a mandatory thing which is we are having. Then coming to the ecosystem itself, the entire ecosystem, we talk about a great ecosystem in India, but that's something which is, I would say, is a pressurized ecosystem. That means if I don't take care of mere maa or pitaji ka, then I will not be taken considered as a good person, as a good citizen. You have thrown away your parents somewhere. Have you left your parents in Kumbh Mela and come back? These are the questions which you are talking about. These are something very, very important for us to draw our limelight on telling. Is it because of the societal pressures you take care of your parents, or is it because you have that love, affection, empathy that you have to give back to your parents and keep it this? These are questions which we have to ask. Now, there are individuals in the organizations who really have struggles. As I speak, I know there are so many people, so many of them which I am already talking to them. They need certain kind of support system with the organization, from the ecosystem, telling that I need to take care of my parents and stuff like that. Now, these individuals have lost. They don't know where to go. They can't even go and reach out to certain people to talk about this stress what they're going through. Then they will not be able to, and many people do not understand the conditions. Someone says that one of my parent is Alzheimer. Oh, what is an Alzheimer's? What is Parkinson's? What is dementia? You don't even know. The managers don't even know what it is. And they're telling, okay, once you're telling that your child is unwell, once your spouse is unwell, once your parents is unwell, yeah, why do you work? You stay back at home, they're telling. This is not the way we can have the employees to be productive. Employee will come with different situations. Employee has a family, and the employee cannot come out leaving everything apart from that, and then I come and work in the workplace. Work life balance is not something that work is separate and life is separate. It's all an integral part of it. So when we talk about this, we need to understand the background of these individuals when they come to the company. Definitely we should start providing a kind of a support system. And what does that support system mean? Today we can't define it. We can't tell that one short solution will work for everybody. No, maybe not. And when I see it at large in the society, when we have good developed daycare facilities available for children, I'm not even talking about ashrams. I'm not talking about putting your parents into some old age homes and all. I'm talking about, why not a daycare for your parents? A very nice established, this is a very nice business which I was thinking through this morning. And no one has ventured still into that. A daycare where your parents can be carried along with you, put them there, take them back, collect them back in the evening, and they're with the community. They're enjoying their life. They have their own medication. They have care. They have shelter. They have everything to enjoy the day. And they come back and tell, this, my day was spent very nicely. So these are certain things I think it should start evolving, and we should start really thinking with a good paradigm shift. And it's high time that we do it. So these are my submissions to you.
Thanks, Annapurna, for that full high energy, spell that you gave and shared, and some of very interesting and critical ideas that you shared. And I think, it is a nascent stage, but at some place it has to start, just as maternity started, just as childcare started, paternity help started. I think at some point of time, some of the organizations have to experiment and start. And, once couple of them do it, and it becomes a successful case study, the others will jump into it. So it's matter of, who are the first few organizations who really looking forward and thinking forward. Even right now, with recent surveys, we've seen that, employees across the globe, they're giving work life balance even more importance than pay. That has taken, so pay is important, of course money is important, but it's not that they think money is the only thing which is important. So work life balance has taken precedence over that, and we will only see this going up. Either the gap will only increase. So some very interesting points you shared, Annapurna. And Rima, I'll come to you with that uh, you guys have been now running Elders India for some time. And where do you see organizations really kind of thinking, or where are the barriers where you see within the organization? And Anil, I'll come back to you with the same questions of taking that step, taking that initiative wholeheartedly, and really changing this whole narrative.
Yeah.
Thanks, Shilpi. And thank you, Garima, Anil, and Annapurna for your sharings. So in the last 3.5 years that I have been at Elders India, I think the one thing we've noticed is that workplaces are still at an evolutionary stage as far as elder care is concerned. So about 10, 12 years back, childcare came up as a critical requirement. And companies started building the whole childcare support system. The government made it mandatory to have childcare support being provided in the organizations. And Shilpi, honestly, I see elder care now following the same route, because till maybe 2 or 3 years back, elder care was not even in the purview of most organizations in India. Now we see that organizations have started looking at it with a different lens. COVID was unfortunate, but I think that kind of has triggered the need for employees to ask for more than just the pay that they are getting from their organizations. Like one of them mentioned, there is a societal expectation in India that children will take care of their parents. The children also need support because we are the sandwich generation. Now we have our young ones who are growing up, we have our work, our careers, our professions to manage. And at the same time, we have our parents who are aging. You gave your own example, where your son is going to be 30, 31 when you turn 60. So the whole idea is that how do we support this entire segment of adult kids in managing this entire aging journey for their parents better? I think one thing that the organizations have started doing in slow baby steps is to raise the awareness and the sensitization around these aspects. Because if I look at my own case, about 10, 12 years back, in my late 20s, early 30s, I don't think I even ever thought about how are my parents going to live when they're 60, 65 plus, where will they live, how will they manage their finances. For me, everything was hunky-dory. They were living a life, happy life, independent life. And it never struck me that there will be a day when we will have to start, they will need to start living differently. And I have taken the harsh call of moving them from their residence of 60 years, moving them to my own city for my own comfort, because at least I'm around them. So I feel this is an area where organizations are still not very conversant, saying that what is going to happen. But there is a lot of thought coming in. Unfortunately, again in India, there is no institutional support the government has started taking baby steps, but the population, the elder population is growing so rapidly that they are not going to be able to manage this alone. So they
Yeah.
are going to demand for private institutions. They have already started that. There is this Niti Aayog report, which was published in Senior Care Reforms by the Government of India 2 years back, which lays down a lot of reforms that the government is planning. But this cannot be done single-handedly by the government. The private organizations like us will have to step in. Corporates will have to step in, like they stepped in for childcare support, to make sure that we are able to manage this demographic time bomb that we're sitting on in a much better way. So, Anil, Garima, and Annapurna spoke about different aspects. So there is a direct impact which is happening on employees. Yeah, there is depression, there is guilt
Yeah.
I come to office with, that something is happening, my parents need me, but I need to be in office. So
Yeah.
there are so many different elements that we've been speaking about and we'll speak about. But I feel it's good to see that organizations are already picking up these conversations. As I engage more and more with leaders and employees from organization, the thought has already got seeded, and it's just a question of time before this will really, really become big in all organizations from a wellness perspective.
Yeah.
Interesting, Rima, that you kind of brought in how childcare was made mandatory. In fact, CSR was made mandatory because government alone cannot, with the rising population of the elders. So government alone won't be able to, kind of, with a huge population of ours, corporates will have to step in as well. Society will have to step in as well. And yet we see that there are barriers which are preventing companies from investing in elder care solutions as of now. So, Anil, I want you, because you're on the other side of the table, you are leading an organization, you're from the corporate. Where do you see the barriers are? Is it seen as an added expense versus an employee benefit? What are people at the helm making decisions? What are they thinking? And what is the fear of investing and upping the game into elder care solutions for the employees?
Um, I don't know. I don't think it's a fear of investing. While I was listening to all the perspectives, there were many thoughts that were going in my mind. And if I were to just put a sort of a framework to it, um, it's like IAM, which is ignorance, awareness, and manifestation. So I think till the time I met Raghu from Elders India, I also did not pay attention to this whole um, notion of elder care, because in my mind, like what Rima was saying, that everything is okay. There's no need for us to even think about it. From ignorance, then I went to the awareness stage of being aware that, oh, this is something that I should start thinking about it. And then the manifestation in terms of taking an action. Uh, as an organization, I think the fundamental issue is about the mind shift. Because whenever you look at an employee and you look at benefits, what do you think of first? You think of maternity, you think of insurance, you think of compensation, and you also think of some industry benchmark benefits. So it's not so much on the space of that cost, but it is prioritizing what comes to you for first. And more conversations like on this panel, when we have more and more context setting in terms of why is it important for employers to start looking at, like what Garima said, that if your employee is at age of 40, that person is going to work for you for another 20 years, but he has a huge mind that is going into elder care, and you need to do something about it. So one, of course, is mindset. Another is like maternity benefit became a reality through the act, and what Annapurna said. I think the next step, in my opinion, will be paternity act, which should become an act. It's high time. And then we should also have some kind of a regulatory framework for even elder care also. So that's the policy. And then the culture of the company. How do you look at your employees? Do you look at them as a resource, or do you really want to provide an environment where they really feel that they are taken care of? Uh, just a different example, for our women employees, we have a framework where starting from, so we have program called Seeds, where we identify students from college and then give them scholarships, and then they move into full-time employees. Then we have tuition reimbursement program when they want to advance their careers. Then when they move into the marriage age, then we have loan programs, and then we have maternity buddy programs, and this whole ecosystem, which is built around how do they blossom their career and become subject matter experts. But for elder care, I think we just stop in between, and that part is still a vacuum. So it's around culture also. And then, of course, the cost. Every organization runs on profit margins and operating margins. So there is that part. But I don't think that cost is more as compared to the return on investment that you get, because if you have a happy, engaged, and committed employee, then I think you get much more in return than anything. So we are doing our best to the extent it's possible. We don't have a policy as such, but as Annapurna said, we do cover employees, spouse, their parents, and their in-laws. We also have a tie-up with an insurance company that gives a top-up insurance policy on much reduced prices. And we have had cases where people are caregivers. So we don't have a formal policy, but for the last 10 years that I've been here, not even a single case has not been supported. So wherever there is a request for
Wow.
flexibility or for working from a different town or anything else, we have supported it fully. So I think it's culture, it is leadership, mindset. Cost, I don't think is so much of an issue, because when you put dollars to it, I don't think there is very high cost to it. So that's what my thoughts are.
So quickly, Shilpi, I want to
I-
add one thing here, which is something I've heard. A lot of employers also feel that if their average employee age is, say, in the late 20s, early 30s, there is no requirement, because elder care has a connotation of physically unhealthy, sick parents, people who don't have sufficient mobility, etc. Because all of us keep talking about the physical aspect of elder care.
Yeah.
Annapurna, Garima also spoke about mental health or mental well-being of the employee, but our parents are also going through different emotional challenges, depression, loneliness, anxiety. In fact, I was looking at some numbers today, and it says that 26.7% of urban elderly in India, they are staying alone or with their spouses. Their children don't stay here. And 25% of them, this is the LASI report of 2021, reported that they have a feeling of of being lonely. So I think the entire emotional well-being space of our parents, which they go through right from the time they say become empty nesters. At the age of 50, 55, when your children leave home, you become empty nesters, that emotional journey that they're going through. One significant aspect that we keep missing out on is the entire financial well-being. How have we planned for their retirement? Are they going to be financially secure, able to fend for themselves from a financial perspective? Things like estate planning, making of wills, etc. So we have not been talking about elder care in such a holistic manner. Usually you come across people not understanding these different aspects, social and recreation. How do you keep them engaged? How do you make sure that they have a passion to follow? They have social life is still intact when they are in their 60s and 70s. I think those are the other aspects of elder care and well-being that we want to bring into picture, to say that it is not meant for only our parents who are in their 70s, 80s. It's meant for people in their 50s. It's meant for people in their 60s. There's that element of happy, independent, comfortable life for your parents at every age. So I think that's again a mindset that we need to change in how we look at elder care.
That's very interesting that you brought in, because there's another thing which I recall when you're saying this, Rima, is also how do you have crucial conversation with your parents? And for that, you don't have to be 40, 50 to be having. So even at 30, there are times when you need to have those crucial conversations. It could be about your own career growth. It could be about the choices that you're making in life. It could be about even understanding what kind of wealth is there in the family. How many of us feel comfortable talking to our parents, saying, how much money do you have? Because it will especially if we have 2 3 siblings, even more difficult. If you're a single child, maybe it's easier, but if you have siblings, you don't want to start this conversation thinking what are going my siblings going to think. So these hard conversations, how do you approach these topics. So you're right, Rima. Of course, the basic starts with health, insurance, but I think the canvas is broad and huge.
Yeah.
And as Anil is saying, the I and the A part of the IAM has to be really addressed at this point of time. And with that, I really like that, Anil. I'm going to just steal
Yeah.
that from you. I'm going to use it from here onwards. But Garima, I'll
Yeah.
come to you with that actually, that, the ignorance and awareness part being so low, what role do you think that senior leadership can play in bringing these conversation into forefront? What kind of, you from a communication industry, what kind of communication programs organizations should run within the organization? Because there's so many programs you launch, but
Yeah.
if it is not well marketed, if it's not well communicated within the organization, there's no buy-in for those things. And
Right.
then, some of these programs will fall flat. The HR will come back and say, oh, we floated it, but nobody joined the session. So, we don't
Yeah.
want to continue with it. And then there it goes. Without understanding why it didn't land well. What could we have done
True.
differently?
True. See, aside from, yeah, communication is critical, but what I also feel is a lot of, if leaders model open conversations, right? We talk about a lot of things, and our day, a work day, a normal work day does have a lot of additional things sprinkled in other than just work. So if these real conversations become a part of daily life, and I'll give you one example how it stayed with me. So in one of my previous organizations, my manager, she had like a very busy work day and didn't have enough support at home. And this is a childcare example, but I'm just trying to extrapolate. She got her 1-year-old to office, just laid like a little bed sheet and had the child play. That day stayed with a lot of people. They were like, oh, this can also happen. And it just suddenly got normalized. And over years, I saw people found it very easy if they were having that challenge to kind of manage it, or at least have a conversation at work saying, hey, this is what is my current problem. Can I take some flexibility? Or if there's nothing, get the child. If there's an important meeting, make the child sit in a meeting room or with some crayons. And all of that became fairly normal with just one little act. Similarly, if these model conversations happen, people see that, okay, my leaders are also taking the time off. And like Anil mentioned, that in their organization, people are given flexible time. It's not questioned, right? There's trust. And I see a similar environment at our place, where if individuals have caregiving responsibilities, whether it be flexibility to in terms of work hours, or working from another location, those are all kind of provided to individuals, and this is primarily on trust. Whether, yes, policy is important, and possibly it will come with time, but I have another thing saying, okay, not too many things, too many leaves, right?
Yeah.
That keep on getting added. Do we look at something which is I don't know if it is radical, but yes, most of us have 5-day work week. Do we extend it to 6-day work week in peak seasons and take that buffer to say you can take caregiving leaves, as opposed to just saying, okay, there's maternity, there's paternity, there is bereavement, there is some sickness, so there are 12 holidays, then every alternate week, like 2 days in a week are holidays. So when are we really working? So do we have those kind of solutions emerging over time? Some things that we are doing as an organization in terms of caregiving support for elderly is for medical support. In addition to the regular insurance, we give an extended cover. If there's an emergency and your medical cover doesn't manage it, so we give up to 20 lakhs of support to people for medical issues. We also give OPD for parents and in-laws.
Yeah.
So that covers a lot of these day-to-day things, which are their visits to the doctor as opposed to only hospitalization. So those are the things that we are looking at. And yes, like you mentioned, Shilpi, awareness and doing it rightly. I would say, while some senior leaders may understand this, but the rubber hits the road when the middle management speaks to their team members. And they may not have the similar level of understanding or the stance being taken by the organization. So, how do we train and educate them to say, hey, this is something which we stand for as an organization, and we need to uh, manage or handle these situations appropriately? So, I'd say that is
Right.
a key element.
No, no, very, when you were sharing about the childcare thing, bringing your child to the office, I went back to my Ogilvy days when, some days daycare was shut and but offices were open, and I used to take this bed sheet with all his toys and all his books, and he would just be there throughout the day. And agencies are fun, so you always find some interesting stuff in the agencies, and that really encourage other women also to bring in their kids on certain days, and even men actually, to bring their kids on certain days. And it was interesting that you mentioned that, and my boss, who was the president of the Mumbai office, was very supportive, and he could sometimes just walk in his office, play with his staff, and I would like, "What are you doing?" And he said, "It's fine." So the leaders showing that way. In a day when at 6 o'clock, if you pick up your bag and go, especially in an agency, they would say half day. That's the first thing which was told to you. He made it a point to leave office at 5:30. He would come up very early in the morning. Nobody would know that. But he started leaving office 5:30 sharps. Just the leaders showing the way so that, if somebody like me who has a child waiting at home leaves office at 6, nobody says half day because, the leaders are also doing that. So leaders showing the way, one thing is what comes to my mind, what you said. And second is like the second level, how do we sensitize the managers? Second level. And it takes me back to gender inclusion days when it was still nascent in India, and we used to do so many sensitization programs on training the managers of towards. And as you said, if we have parents, we kind of empathize parents of that age. If we when we became mothers, we empathize what motherhood is going through, and therefore this sensitization becomes very critical. And maybe that's a way to look at building more sensitization and awareness, not just with leaders, but with the managers, so that it becomes like a DNA of the organization. Um, and Annapurna, with that, I'll come to you because you said something very interesting. Today your child is not well, tomorrow you are not well, and now your parents are not well. So you stay at home. We are in Women History Month this month, and we've heard about motherhood penalty. Thankfully, personally, I've not experienced it, but I know a lot of women who've experienced it. Um, and now there's something called eldercare penalty. Because believe it, we like it or not, but caregiving role also primarily falls on women more than men. And research shows that, and fact shows that. And when you just look around your own house, your own society, or your own apartment, you would see that happening. So how women employees, am I right in saying that women employees are more impacted with elder care responsibilities, and many of them have actually downsized their career, off-ramped their career because they have to step into filling in this role?
Absolutely, 100%. There is no doubt about it. Because see, one is again when we are talking about this caregiving role as such, and with India as a country in the perspective, because from very beginning the girl child is told to be a caregiver, and then she's nurtured like that. Then plus what happens is after marriage we get additional parents. So which is like, the boy gets it or not, the woman gets it. Okay, and then they'll tell father-in-law, mother-in-law more important than father and mother if something happens. So all of this is tied so tightly in the socio-economic system of ours, telling that even the woman is employed, she might at times have to use her finances to take care of the father-in-law and the mother-in-law rather than the mother and father also. There are situations like that also. See, so much of agony for that woman to sustain in her career. First
This is
is,
very hard hitting.
it is
We would
very
not
hard
want to
hitting.
accept it, but you're saying
Yeah,
it's
but
it's a reality.
that's the reality. That's a ground reality. I'm not even talking about MNCs or you start seeing manufacturing industries, process industries, other industries. We are always clouding the entire workforce of women with a segment of IT industry, and especially being in Bangalore. We should never ever do this. And I would say that, come on, see the entire industry as a whole,
Yeah.
and see the women in different industries. What is the representation of the women? First you fight for your own, there is so much a cascading effect on the women. She doesn't get married. She doesn't want to get married. The 2050, I was reading a latest report. It's saying that by 2050 or something, the woman will tell that, okay, I'm going to give up marriages because it's an additional burden on me. I don't want to get married because I don't want to raise up children. I can't have finances for this. I can't take care of someone else's parents. Now, these are all the thoughts which are going on. Having said that, with the current scenario in the current workplaces, without any great ecosystem, she has to juggle between everything. And thanks to COVID, something the work from home, work from office has become, thanks to IT industries, which have started giving 5 days. And now, if, I don't know, 70 hours, 90 hours, what would that mean now for us? But I was hardcore. Out of my 30 years of service, I was at least in the first 20 years of my service in 6 days, 6.5 days of work. And of course, my parents, again, peel that up more, the onion, and you see, if they are from central government industries, if they are from government industries, you have something being protected to them as a way of pension, as a care, elderly health care, they after their retirements. But think about the generation which we are in. We are totally into great MNCs. We get a buck, and that buck stops when we stop. That's it. We don't have any connection with our employers as stating that, okay, you'll get some pension, or you'll get some medical benefits, or you will be getting some kind of benefits and things like that. No, nothing will happen. So government has protected the government employees a lot. What about the non-government employees? Now, coming to the gender as a woman, it's very hard hitting, because one, the guilt they carry to the work, keeping on telling that my child is not well, my mother-in-law is not well, my father-in-law is not well, then my parents are not well. Now all of this, it keeps coming back to the women. Can you stop your job? Can you go today to your office and submit your resignation? Which is so hard hitting for that woman, telling that, and this experience is my own experience. Between me and my spouse, we have fought on this topic for my child, telling that child is unwell, can you go and tell your manager today that you will stop coming, and then because you have to take care. In spite of having my parents to take care of my children, my ecosystem completely in Bangalore and things like that, one day I turned back to him and I told, hey, look, can you do the same thing? And I think that day we stopped this discussion. That day was the last day. But it is not easy. It's just not easy. And why should a woman give every time a reason, telling that uh, it's not only me, it's all of us should be participating in this? Now, is that woman herself taking on this, or is the environment like that? Sometimes we cannot tell that if she herself is responsible or she isn't responsible. So it should be both way. The woman herself also should stand up and tell that, hey, look, my life is this. I have studied. I am doing a job. I want to continue in my career. Now, along with my career, I have these things. Now, as someone, now we were having crucial conversations, not only about finance, about the careers, about the entire, happiness in the family, about living together. There's a lot of things which we have to start discussing in Indian home setups. I'm not talking about, and there are parents now struggling. There is a chunk of people struggling where the children are not there at all in the country, and the children and the parents are here, and now the extended family has to take care. It is becoming another difficulty. They think, okay, financially, if I give my parent insurance, financially, if I protect something, is that enough? No, someone has to be there. So how does this happen? So I think it's a really a great time, not telling that it is so and so's parent or so and so's child or so and so's career. I think we all should come as a community. It's important. It's important very much to come out as a community, as coming and telling that, okay, fine, maybe it could be running for business, maybe it could be running voluntary, we could even do it in organizations, telling that, okay, fine, there are now the children who are there, and they wanted to someone else wants to someone else family's father needs just to be with him, to give pills on time and things like that. If one of my team member or I go to their home and I work from there and I'm there, and this person can't be there, can we think of something very radical?
Yeah.
Very radical, because these solutions can't come from only one force.
No, it cannot.
Yeah, there's a multiple force which has to come. Childcare importance for kid, everything has just got one level up. But here
Yeah.
is where there is an entire segment which is waiting, where I
Yeah.
think we cannot tell them that, okay, fine, you guys have reached 70 now, you have no living existence, this one, you're an expiry date. Can't tell that, right?
Yeah. You just have an Aadhaar card and that's it.
That's it. And God bless them, they're there. I don't know, even our generation, by the time we come up and we are in 60s, I think we are patients already. They are with, many of them are with better health in our
Yeah,
previous
I
generations.
agree.
So I think it's quite a nice thing and when we dwell back even in our family histories and things like that, there is many things to draw back. Joint families, giving care for each other, a grandfather giving care for grandchildren, and their passing out times, they were all fine. But with the urbanization and super urbanization, uh, I think, yes, we are losing it. But yes, we can't bring back the same families, but doesn't mean that we can't create families. That's
That's
something.
beautiful.
Yeah, we have to create
Yeah.
families.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. No, there's so much work to be done that sometimes I think, we all get overwhelmed that, how it's going to happen. But just like with other things, this also will happen because companies like Elders India are also doing great stuff out there. And Rima, I'll come to you with a closing question because, there's so much that Garima, Anil, and Annapurna have shared in terms of not just challenges, but also in terms of solutions. They've also shared some best practices. What do you think are some low investment, high impact solution that organizations can implement today? Since we are talking about the corporate setup and especially the urban corporate employees that we're talking about, what you've been working in this space? Suggestions from you on this?
Sure. Thanks, Shilpi. So I think no, Garima and Anil covered some of it. So one is obviously some very simple things which organizations can do in terms of flexi work arrangements, whether it's hybrid, remote, and being able to offer that. Things like leaves. So Garima gave some suggestions on 6-day week. It could also be a
Yeah.
reduced weekly hours, so that they can take off. So one day they can work more and they can use the extra hours to kind of look at these elder care support requirements. So paid, unpaid leaves. The other things which I think work very well is having support groups within the organization. So there are a lot of ERGs, the employee resource groups, which are been coming up in various formats and organizations. I think it's important for the employee in question to feel supported. And it is not only the team leader or the manager who does that, but the support that they receive from their own peer group becomes very important. So I think that those kind of support groups within the organization, again, low investment. And we are working with some organizations in driving the ERG strategy. What could be the interventions that could be run? How could we support them? And like Annapurna was saying, the need of our seniors is not going to go away. And I'm a woman, I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, and sometimes I feel challenged. So, like my father had to undergo a surgery and we needed an attendant. So, thanks to me being in Elders India, I knew instantly where to look for an attendant. But there are friends who reach out and they are on WhatsApp groups and Facebook groups looking for an attendant, a 24-hour attendant. So providing these resources in a format which is easily accessible, easily understood, I think that is again something which organizations can consider, saying that we understand what are the challenges you are going through, but from solution perspective, I think providing the right kind of resources is also important. No, there is an emergency and you're looking for an ambulance. You call 4 hospitals in a metro. It is a nightmare getting an ambulance on time, and you waste time, and God knows what the situation is after 1 hour if say an elderly has had a fall. So again, how do we make these resources more accessible to the employees, so that they know where to go when there is an urgent need? Then there are things around work culture which we are driving. We are again talking about manager sensitization, is what Garima spoke about. I've been in India for about 20 years, and I understand it's also very company specific, it's also very manager specific. So while I may have felt very supported, another person in another team may not have had that privilege within the same organization. So, how do you drive that as a culture within the organization where every employee relates to this kind of flexibility, to this kind of benefits at the same level? And then I would encourage that organizations should start looking out how to help employees build that ecosystem. So how do we look at the elder care providers in the market? How do we ensure that our employees have access to these kind of provisions which are needed? EAP programs are there, but mostly EAP programs are focusing on employees. So again, when our elders need counseling, there is a specialized area called geriatrics department, which many people are not even aware of, that this is a specialization. In fact, a lot of hospitals in India don't even have that division. So how do I, as an employer, make sure that my employee has understanding, awareness, and access to these resources is something I would urge our organizations to think about.
So, what I'm hearing is, taking from again from Anil, but, just tweaking some of the words there. So one I feel is what you're saying is step number one is intention and an understanding that this is the call of the hour and we need to step up and we need to do something. And then as Garima and Annapurna and Anil came up with some very creative, interesting solutions as well. So innovation is required. Maybe it sounds radical right now, but perhaps, only when you experiment, when you try, will something emerge out of that. So innovation and creativity is required in addressing this. And then, of course, an execution. And for execution, we always need partners to execute with, because not all resources would be within the organization. That's where we need to get outside the organization and partner with experts and service providers to be able to do that for the organization. So we are at 4:58 and I'm cognizant of time, but I think it's been I didn't realize that we almost an hour of conversation has happened. But a very, very enlightening and very heartening conversation, very a conversation which has really brought in a lot of optimism for me, at least, to see that all of you who are thought leaders in your space are you have these insights to share. The acknowledgement is there, the acceptance is there, and the desire to do something around it is there. So it only gives hope that more people, more organizations are in the same boat, and perhaps Rima, more conversations are required, more frequent conversations are required, so that we make it more like a movement rather than just an intervention, because it's not just about few people, it's about thousands and thousands and hundreds of people out there, lakhs of people out there. And as Annapurna also corporate does not mean that we're only looking at the cities and IT and those big fancy glass buildings out there. It means different kind of industries and therefore different kind of solutions for all employees who are in a non-government uh, job setup with private organizations. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today for the conversation.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Shilpi.
you.
This was wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Garima and
Thank
Purna.
you. Thank you
Thank
so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you,
thank
Garima.
you,
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone.
Rima. Thank you, Anil.
And
Thank
thank
you.
you,
Thank you,
everyone, for
Shilpi.
joining in. Goodbye. Thank you.